Hey guys, Bike here, and I'm back again with another Last Epoch video. This one's going to be a build guide for the Divine Bolt Paladin. So if you guys remember, before I got sucked into Diablo 4 Season 4, I was working on this, nice little Divine Bolt build, largely based off of what I saw from Perry the Pig, so I'll have a link to his video in the description down below, along with a build guide planner of what I'm currently using on this. I don't know, we got a little bit of time before Last Epoch Cycle 2 comes out, but I wanted to get this out there so you guys can mess around with it. Just a huge disclaimer. I'm pretty sure Ward and this ability, Healing Hands, is going to get tweaked for sure. So I don't know how viable this build's going to be, but I wanted to get this out there, show you guys, what I did to the build, and, we'll be playing it for sure. Maybe not all the way up till cycle 2, but we're going to be checking it out and see if we can make any other adjustments to it. Anyway, there will be timestamps in the description down below so you guys can kind of go around to what you need to do. We're going to be going over the gear, the skill tree, the passives, gameplay, all that fun stuff. So if everything I just said sounds good, let's jump into it. If you only need a couple different things, feel free to skip. If you just want the planner, like I said in the description down below, if you could leave a like, possibly even subscribe, I would appreciate it. Anyway, guys, let's jump right into the video. Let's go. All right, guys, here we are in game. So I'm going to have some gameplay playing right now. This was taken at corruption 850 something, thereabouts. And as you can see, we got a lot more headroom on this build left to go. We are just blasting through everything. I believe I've seen people using similar builds pushing past 2,000 corruption. I'll be fine if I hit 1,000 corruption on this build. This build absolutely clears. It does feel a little chintzy. As you guys know, I do like my melee. I like my Void Cleaver Racing Strike. I like my Master E build. I'll be okay. I like my hammers. I really do like my hammers a lot. So, I mean, this is a little bit of a different pace for me, but it is strong. It is, oh man, this build is nuts. Here we got Orbis at 800 whatever corruption, just absolutely just smacking the guy. We're able to just sit in some of his stuff. There's a couple of his abilities we had to move out the way, but for the most part, we're able to just sit there and clean house. And yeah, let's jump into the game. All right, so here we go. We're going to go over the gear, then we're going to go over the idols, blessings, all that good stuff. So this build, we're using Peak of the Mountain. You want pluses to Healing Hands. I happen to get cold resistance on there. Peak of the Mountain, excuse me. Peak of the Mountain is a great item to use in this case because of the huge base critical strike chance that well, not base, but the huge percentage critical strike chance you get from here. Very good. I like it a lot. Mad Alchemist Ladle. You could try a couple different things out, but I found Mad Alchemist Ladle to be very effective in this case, with a chance to apply slow, frailty, spell, I don't know, shred armor, all that good stuff. 52% cast speed, fire penetration. You can go for a couple other different stuffs on here, like additional spell damage. Yeah, I like it. So here is a huge departure from Perry's build that I did. I'm using Dark Shroud of Cinders. Reason why? You get even more cast speed. That is kind of the name of the game with this build. You want cast speed. Oh my god. You want that cast speed. Just get that cast speed up there. Look at that. Our ward is going insane. There's people who've gotten this much higher than this, but I feel like I feel like this is a really obscure, unique to get in the game, and I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. You get a chance to blind. You get added void damage. We don't really use that. The fire spell cast speed chance, yes. Chance to cast fire aura, we don't really use that. Increase void damage per fire aura, that would be cool if we were doing any sort of void damage. I mean, I guess we could say the volatile reversal, but I mean, we're not really relying on that for damage. I just thought it was cool. I would say what you would probably want to use in this place, especially if you're really pushing, you're going to want to use some sort of Sentinels, Champion's Regalia. Some sort of Champion Regalia. You get all that armor, that damage mitigation. Maybe not this necessarily this role, but you're going to want to go for health. You want to go for protection, that sort of thing. You could also go for like added fire damage, not necessarily on the helmet, but you can get fire, ignite, duration, that sort of good stuff. That would be the ultimate play if you're really pushing, but for what I'm doing right now, I think this is fun, and I'm getting to use kind of a obscure unique. So here's my own little personal touch on the build that doesn't necessarily make it better, but nonetheless, there it is. I slammed it, got some attunement on there, got some necrotic resistance, didn't really need that. You can try and go for some more armor percentage, perhaps, especially because the base armor on Dark Shroud of Cinders is not much. Go for some mana. Well, who knows? Whatever you need. Well, mana, probably not mana, but sky's the limit. Go check it out. Healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness. That is also another name of the game here. So, attunement, healing effectiveness, and cast speed are going to be like your three main stats you're going to be looking for. So on the reins, I was able to get 1 LP, Ashes of Mortality. These are great. You're able to get more cast speed, ward retention, fire damage. And I was able to get a tier 7, well, on this one, and a tier 6 on the, if you guys were there for that stream over a month ago where I kept slamming these over and over again. Yeah, cast speed, war retention, fire damage. These are great. Ashes Mortality, probably. I mean, you could get away with other just like regular rings, but the extra cast speed and ward retention really helps with the build. Hands of Judgment, or Hand of Judgment. Like, I get it. This is a Judgment unique, but you're gonna find a lot of these, especially if you're like in Circle of Fortune. You're probably gonna find a ton of these, and if you're anything like me, you found a ton of 3 LP versions of these. So they do give some good stuff. They give fire penetration. Yes, fire penetration is very good. And most of the other stuff is not really usable. I mean, the attunement, yes, is very usable. It's the fact that they give some armor, they give some resistance, and the fact that I have found a ton of these at 3 LP, and they also have fire penetration. Now, you could try something else. You could try Frostbite Shackles, perhaps. I know this is a very popular one, Frostbite Shackles. You stack a whole bunch of cold resistance, and boom, you get a ton more ward retention. I would say this is what people use a lot to really hang on to that ward. The thing is, I have so much cast speed on this build, I just generate so much ward. I do hit a cap, though. I go a full bar, which is 60k ward, I believe. And then I get to around anywhere from 10 to 20 after that. So that's around 80k ward. That is a lot of ward still, and I generate it very fast. The only thing is I lose it real quick too. Personally, I like this play style. Perry the Pig really advocated for this. I believe the build that he got it from, I don't recall the name of the person. It's in his video, so if I'm linking his video, you can backwards, go to his description, find their video, and they were a big Frostbite Shackles advocate, whereas Perry was a big Hand of Judgment. The thing is, I've got so many of these, and I think this is like one of 2 Frostbite Shackles I've found. New Circle of Fortune changes, yes, please. I mean, it'll be amazing for something like this going into cycle 2, but yeah, way easier to get one of these than one of these. All right, Fiery Dragon Shoes. I've been blessed to have found a couple of these with 2 LPs. So movement speed is a big choice you can go for. Attunement would be your next choice. Actually, I would probably go for the attunement, try and get like a tier 7 attunement on there. I don't think I have I like I said, I found a couple of these. I got a 1 LP here and 1 LP here. The movement speed was good enough for me, and I was able to get some elemental resistance on there. I didn't really need that. I think what I had tried to do is I tried to slam this with a tier 7 attunement that also had some other okay stats. You know what I'm saying? And I got the okay stats. I would probably advocate for trying to get a big bunch of attunement on here. All right, Immolator's Ablation. This is a really interesting unique. So I got pretty lucky with this one. I found a couple of these. What you're mostly going to want on here is increased fire damage. There's not a really, one of the main things we take on our belts as sentinels is chance to cleanse all ailments. Well, in this case, you don't necessarily want to cleanse the ailments. What you want to do is you want to give yourself an ailment. You want to give yourself a dot, which everybody is like, wait, what? Sentinel? You want to ignite yourself? Like, Bike, you complain so much about dots. Yes, I do. In this particular case, I want to get dotted. I'm going to say it right now. Bike wants to get dotted. Don't clip that. So what this does is 97% chance to ignite yourself when you use a fire or necrotic skill. Hence cast speed. The more cast speed, the more chance for this to activate. You want to get a high roll on this. You have anywhere from a 46% to 100% chance. I got 97%. That's good enough for me. And then per stack of ignite, you do more fire damage. When you're doing more fire damage, you're killing stuff a lot faster. And then you have a 5% chance to gain frenzy, which is, so there's haste, and then there's frenzy, and then there's the pylons, the shrines, which give you both. Normally, if you want to move faster, haste. If you want to attack faster, frenzy. That's how you remember it. Smack, smack, frenzy. Move, move, haste. Frenzy is what gives us the even more cast speed with this. So 5% chance to gain frenzy. You want to get a little bit more. So increase ignite duration, try and hold on to it. The thing is, when you're casting this, I never get the full 40. Even when I start activating everything, I generally top out at around 11. That's why I've tried to go for more ignite speed. What you could try and do is get more of these affixes right here. The increased fire in ignite duration combo affixes that can go onto your armor right here. So, get yourself a nice attunement in one of these. Give yourself a little bit more ignite duration. You could also try and throw it onto your Peak of the Mountain helmet. And in this case, you can go for like a +3 to healing hands, or a you can get your pluses to healing hands and then slam this on there as well. I slammed this a long time ago. I got my +3 to healing hands and my extras to cold resistance. That's fine. So we went over Ashes of Mortality. Scales of Atera. This is a very interesting one. I got a bad slam. What you want on this is cast speed. Scales of Atera has inherent cast speed, so it's good. It's pretty good in that regard. And then you want to slam it with cast speed. You get double cast speed. Remember, I said name of the game: healing effectiveness, cast speed. I'm drawing a blank. What did I say earlier? Oh man, I screwed this up. Name of the game: attunement. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Healing effectiveness, attunement, cast speed. I'm sorry. Wow, that was bad. So you want to get those things on here, but Scales of Atera is weird. You also want to read what it says on here. If at any point you see this casting a cold spell or casting a lightning spell, if you have a godly 3 LP Scales of Atera, and it says casting a fire spell grants fire infusion with a 20-second cooldown, it is bricked. I am sorry. It is straight up bricked. I don't say that often about items in Last Epoch. I just say, they're there until you find the better one. No, it is straight up bricked, because what that's going to do is it means your fire spells now have a 20-second cooldown. You're going to do this. Wait for 20 seconds. You got to be careful. What you could do in the meantime, let me see if I got it over here. You could use an offhand, like something like this, with cast speed, ward retention, or you can grab one that has something like this. In fact, I think I was using this before. I would probably advocate for the Crystal Skull over the focus. I would opt for something like this because you get the base spell critical strike chance. What do you get on Scales of Atira? Base spell critical strike chance, which goes hand in hand with the huge amount of percentage critical strike chance you get out of Peak of the Mountain. So, unfortunately, I'm kind of in a position where I need to use this bunk Scales of Atira, but if I could ever get my poison resistance in a good spot and use this and get one with cast speed, will be even better. Okay, Soulfire. I think Soulfire is all right. You get 100% armor while you're ignited, which goes hand in hand with the belt. You're going to want to try and get cast speed, attunement, and healing effectiveness on here. I was able to get 2 of the 3, so I consider that still a success. You get more spell damage against ignited enemies, which you're going to be igniting a lot of enemies with this build. You get a chance to ignite with fire skills. And 60% increased fire damage if you killed an enemy recently. Yes. 100% armor while you're ignited. Yes. 100% Hungering Souls base damage converted to fire does not apply. Hungering Souls does not apply. Those are acolyte abilities. But I think Soulfire is pretty good. You could go in a different direction and look for a different kind of relic. I think this is fine. It has good interactions with your Immolator's belt. This is just fine. For your amulet, this is the only piece of gear that I'm using that is not, well, if you don't count the idols, this is the only piece of gear that is not a unique. Though I think it would be kind of fun to try and use the Confluence of Fate. You gain flat fire damage, and that's about the only usefulness here. I mean, and you take less damage over time. But the thing is, you take more damage when you get hit. Fire damage taken on hit. Necrotic damage taken on hit. Void damage taken on hit. Seeing that we don't even deal necrotic or void, well, I mean, we do deal void damage, but for just a little fire damage bump, not worth it in my opinion. You can, if you want to use a unique here, you can go for like an Aurora's Time Glass or a couple different things. I would recommend an amulet that you can find with a tier. Here's what I'm gonna say. First, you're going to want to try and get yourself a tier 7 healing effectiveness. And then especially if you can get some other stuff on there like chance to apply frailty, chance to shred armor, maybe a resistance that you need, and spell critical strike chance or spell damage if you're good on the spell critical strike chance. Look for those first. Because what would be recommended would be one of these. The brass amulets. Because they have a... their implicit is cast speed. I say look for the stats first. If you're able to get stats on a brass amulet, even better. But I'm gonna look for the stats first. In this case, we got health as the implicit. That's okay. This is a really good amulet that I'm using. So, yeah, I mean, best in slot would be a brass amulet because of more cast speed. Name of the game. Remember that. All right, that handles the gear. Oh, I should always mention, I always gloss over this. So let me mention it now, just because I have so many assumptions. Only because Healing Hands has been going on for a while now. I just assume everybody knows this, but I shouldn't do that. This build guide, you might be seeing a Healing Hands build for the very first time in this build guide. You always are going to need the 8% of current health lost per second, and the 8% equals 8% of missing health gained as ward per second. You're going to need that on your gear, and we will discuss that in the skills section. But you are going to need that. The best place to get that is on your gloves. Where do you get that? It's an experimental affix. So something like this, they drop for the mages, or if you're good enough and you know the game well enough, at which point I don't even need to explain this to you, you can use these guys, the glyphs of insight. You go use the calculator. I personally have never done that. I found this. I got lucky. Yeah, and we don't need endurance. So yeah, also I guess I should point out when it comes to the gloves, you're going to want cast speed, you're going to want the current health loss per second. You're going to need that. That's your number one goal, actually, on the gloves. It's not even cast speed. If you do not have this modifier right here, you're done. You need this to get all that ward. So if you can get that in cast speed, you're golden. I would also recommend chance to shred armor on hit or chance to apply frailty. I would definitely go for chance to shred armor on hit over something like endurance, which we're not using. Okay, that is the gear. I swear. Let's go over the idols. It's going to be very short. Healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness, healing effectiveness. On these big idols, I was able to get healing effectiveness and then chance to shred armor with fire skills, because our healing hands is now a fire skill. Right? And then for these smaller idols, I just do healing effectiveness and like some sort of resistance. Excuse me for one moment. Now, got to feed the beast. Okay. And then Throne of Ambition. This has been in the game for a while, but again, I don't want to assume you know where to get this. That you know where to get this. You get this from here. Let me just show you. I'm gonna go over here. Wait, how do we go back? Oh yeah. Sorry guys, Diablo brain. You go to the Stolen Lance timeline and you fight the boss there, and eventually you can get one. Get it to drop. I believe I don't think this particular I don't think Throne of Ambition has ranges. It's you get this, there you go. It is good. You gain a stack of ambition when you hit a boss or rare enemy. That's kind of why I don't like to use it, because you have to roll it. It only becomes effective when you're fighting bosses and rare enemies, but when you do, it becomes super vital. So it's better just to throw it in there instead of like, oh, we're fighting a boss. Oh, there's a rare enemy. Let me change my idol. No, just leave it there. You get 2% more fire damage per stack of ambition. You get 2% more cold damage. Doesn't apply in this case, but there you go. And then you get 2% more armor per stack of ambition. Now, you see where it says more? That means it's multiplicative with your other sources. So you can really get yourself a good amount of armor and good amount of fire damage out of this. But like I said, only applies against bosses and rare enemies. All right. And that is the idols. Let's go over the blessings. I actually prefer to do this. Okay. In the Fall of the Outcast, literally take whatever you want. I say the gold find is probably better, but seeing that I'm not playing Merchant's Guild, I'm playing Circle of Fortune. I've already got like over 6 million gold, so I can buy all the stash tabs I want. I'm not super worried about that. So I go for unique find. Try and find other stuff. Excuse me. So for the Stolen Lance timeline, it's one of those, increased drop rates. So literally go for whatever you're looking for. In this case, I chose Rings. Blood and Frost, another one of those drop rate timelines. Go for whatever you're looking for. I chose Scepters. Fall of the Empire, again, another one of those. Go for whatever you're looking for. I went with Relic Shard drop rate. Okay, Black Sun. You got two choices here. Yeah, you got two choices here. Well, I mean, I guess technically three. You can go for health. I think that's a non-choice. Don't go for health. Don't choose health. You can go for critical strike chance or critical strike multiplier. If you feel like your critical strikes are in a good place, like you're happy with that, go for your critical strike multiplier. That'll give you bigger numbers when you crit. But if you really need help with your critical strike, you know, trying to get that number up just so you can do more crits, go for critical strike chance. I stuck with critical strike multiplier. For ending the storm, you might be wondering why in the world you have chance to shred lightning resistance on hit. Well, you see, I've played multiple builds this cycle with my Paladin, and this is not that I have any plans to go back to Smite Hammered in, but this is like the best blessing, one of the best blessings to get. This is the highest roll, 50%, and I got it like my second try. Seeing that if I chose to take this off, I would get something like either lightning resistance, which I don't need, or, you know, maybe health regen, which I don't need, or mana, which I don't really need. I didn't see the point in changing it. This is a testament to my hammered in journey right here. I just left it there. Again, choose whatever you want out of this timeline. I would say mana or lightning resistance would probably be your best friends. Don't choose this. This does nothing for you. All right. You got a couple choices here. You can go critical strike avoidance, or you can go all res, all resistances. What I ended, or I believe you can get poison resistances there. Thing is, the all res is giving me just enough to justify it. I'm right on the edge though. I guess I literally could go for poison resistance there. That might be the better choice for me, because that's a 19%. Decisions. I'm figuring some stuff out right in the moment myself. But the thing is, I use Fiery Dragon Shoes. I guess I didn't really explain why we use Fiery Dragon Shoes, so let me quickly explain it. You get more movement speed, fire penetration with Ignite, more fire damage, and 84% reduced bonus damage taken from critical strikes. So, yes, you're not going to be at 100%, but with the huge amount of ward you're going to be generating, that's good enough. And since we have that, it kind of frees up this slot, because with the 84% reduced damage taken, like, yes, you got hit with a crit, but you only took 84% of that critical strike damage. Excuse me. Whereas with critical strike avoidance, yes, you don't get crit as often, but when you do, you take 100% of that damage. I opt for, oh, okay, I got crit. Oh, well, but hey, guess what? I didn't take as much damage. When that happens, it gives you more options in the Reign of Dragons timeline. I recommend all res, or in my personal case, I might have to go back and check it out and maybe go into the poison resistance. Spirits of Fire. This one is you definitely should look into getting this one. It is the shred fire resistance on hit. You could go for armor, but I don't recommend that. Shred fire resistance. Grab that. This maxes out at 50%. I could spend more time trying to get it. I got 41%. That was good enough for me. Last Ruin. Completely personal on what you want to do. I hate doing this timeline. Even when I'm playing a busted build like this, I mean, I'd be fine if I went and killed Elder Gaspar as many times as I wanted, but I chose class-specific drop rate. Go from there. Age of Winter armor, the armor percentage, I'd say is a good choice. All right, that is the blessings. Let's... Okay. There we go. Diablo brain again. Let's go over the skills. So with Healing Hands, Divine Barrier. Divine Barrier. So here's what you're going to want to do. You don't need to take any of these stuff. You come over here, you take Divine Barrier. What this does is if you have this experimental affix where instead of health, you're gaining ward, Sorry. I've gotten really used to hitting A because Diablo instead of S, so bear with me. So what this does is it's going to convert the healing from healing hands into ward. Go up here, home ward. If you're using healing hands and it's not hitting an allied player, in this case we're using it to deal damage. If it's not hitting an allied player, the healing portion of that is going to heal you instead. It's gonna hit you, and it's gonna give us a little extra healing effectiveness. All right, Prayer of the Fallen, increased healing effectiveness. This is pretty good, and then you're going to dip down into urgent healing. You get more healing, which remember gets converted into ward. Right here, you're going to play around with this to try and get the right balance of you're going to play around with this to try and get the right balance of your mana cost reduction. In this particular case, my healing hands is going to cost 1. That's good enough for me. Instead of having to spend an extra point here. In this particular case, I would want to try and get more points into something like Divine Bolt. But right now, this just creates more Divine Bolts. It doesn't increase the actual damage of Divine Bolts. It just increases the amount. I have enough Divine Bolts. I think that it's fine at 4 out of 5, but ideally you would want to try and get this. But there's a very specific reason why we don't have it maxed out. So yeah, I only took 1 point here and 1 point here in Blessed Perish and Purity Thought. Took 1 point in Searing Light, so now Healing Hands does damage, and it's a fire spell. Took 2 points in Cleric's Wrath. So this is a very interesting one. Is it gains Healing Hands gains multiplicative damage based off of your specialized buff skills. And I know that's kind of weird, but every time you have a specialized buff, you gain more damage out of it. These would count as specialized buffs. Javelin, what we have here, would count as specialized buffs, even though we're not using it. Like I said, it's kind of weird, but these give extra specialized buffs, which equals more damage. Now, you could come down into Virtue of Patience, but seeing how important cast speed is, I don't think it's worth it. Cast speed. The negatives of cast speed, no bueno. Come up here, you take 2 points in Bane of Evil. This is going to give you more spell damage per 10% healing effectiveness. Yeah. And then Halted Scourge. This is a specialized buff. Immobilize void enemies and damage versus void enemies and void damage taken. So this is a defensive as well as an offensive specialized buff. Turn Undead. It's basically the same thing except against necrotic enemies, undead enemies, that sort of thing. So if I had a +4 to Healing Hands in this slot, I would probably put the 1 point here in Divine Catalyst, but since I had a +3, I just took 1 point out of here. I wanted to make sure I had the specialized buffs. But feel free to play around with this and see what you come up with. Javelin, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. I don't use the Javelin. In this particular case, I didn't mess around with it. Perry the Pig was like, this is my Javelin setup. This is the way I left it. He doesn't have it on a skill bar. So I just literally copied that. You know, I can usually give a pretty good answer for stuff like this, but seeing this skill is literally just a buff skill right now by gaining some of these specialized buffs. I literally just copied it. I took it, saw I was doing more damage. It was good enough for me, so I'm going to leave it like this. But if you're somebody who likes to tinker, which normally I do, but in this particular case I didn't, feel free. Go around, see what you can get out of it. Okay, Holy Aura. So for here, we get a little bit more Ignite chance, which gives us... honestly, we only take 2 points here to gain access to this side of the tree. You're going to want to try and get the extra fire penetration out of here by putting the 2 points into here, which allows us to access fanaticism, which gives us more cast speed. Yes, 3 points here. 4 points in True Strike gives us that increased crit chance, as well as 3 points in Extreme Zeal, gives us a little bit more critical strike multiplier. And we go over here, 2 points in Vital Boon. The only reason why we put 2 points here is to give us access to Redemption, which gives us more healing. And remember, you get these passive bonuses here, but when you activate Holy Aura, all of these get doubled. Yes. Now, you might be thinking, well, what if I came over here and I started messing around with some of this, you know, get like some of this ward retention, get this ward regen. These are good choices, but with the way the build is set up, with the cast speed and everything, these choices aid in your damage and your cast speed, and you're penetrating the defenses much more than a little extra ward retention and ward per second. So I would leave these alone, but like I said, feel free to tinker. This is like your basic, like almost every build I put out uses this volatile reversal setup. So take a look at it. If you see any of my build guides, same exact setup. Sigils of Hope. So in this particular case, what we're really looking for is a little extra damage, right? Chance to summon on a sigil on kill. So damage, extra fire damage, flat damage. 2 points in Iron Sigils, 4 points in Enduring Hope to give us an extra sigil. And then 5 points in Invigorate. Normally, I don't take this in a majority of my builds, but the extra healing per sigil, which this is going to give us 4, 30%, 30 times 4, 120% extra healing effectiveness. That's like a tier 6 affix on your gear that you get out of a skill, along with extra damage. All right, that is the skills. Let's get into the passive tree. There we go. There we go. Took 8 points in Juggernaut just to give us a little extra strength and some resistances. 2 points in Relentless just for a little extra damage, stun avoidance. 5 points in Valiant Charge, which gives us increased cooldown recovery speed for movement skills, which Volatile Reversal is a movement skill. 5 points in Armor Clad. I feel like just about every Sentinel build takes this, because guess what? That is literally damage reduction right there against close enemies. I wish we had more, but more choices, but yeah. Armor and damage reduction, Armor Clad. So that's going to be 20 points. That's all you're going to need. Then you're going to take 5 points into Void Knight. You're going to put that into Abyssal Endurance. Give you a little extra. It doesn't have to be here. It could be here. It could be here. I would put it into Abyssal Endurance. And the reason why we want 5 points is we want Volatile Reversal. And then all of your points are going to go into the Paladin. So you're going to take 8 points into Conviction. This is going to give us a ton of extra damages, but the two main things: increase fire damage, increase fire penetration. 8 points in Defiance. This is going to give us extra attunement and elemental resistance. 10 points in Valor. Not necessarily for the health, but for the healing effectiveness. 1 point in Divine Bolt. Whenever you hit an enemy with a melee attack, you have a 20% chance to cast Divine Bolt as a blast of holy energy. 5 points into Shared Divinity. Divine Bolt fires extra projectile, but has reduced chance to cast on hit. Now, I get this. Why are we taking these points here? They clearly say this procs on melee hit. I get that. The way the game is coded right now is when a Divine Bolt is fired, the Shared Divinity gets activated. And since we can effectively fire divine bolts all the time with healing hands, the shared divinity becomes very useful. So every time a divine bolt is activated, we get the extra 5 projectiles. That's why it's like a shotgun blast going all over the place with this. That's why I'm not as worried about that 1 extra divine bolt that I'm getting from healing hands. I know effectively that means less, but every time it's a divine bolt is procced, this activates. It doesn't list a source for divine bolt. It just says when divine bolt fires extra projectiles, but we have less chance to cast when we're using the melee hit version. If you're not using the melee hit version, you're using the healing hands one, this becomes very powerful. All right, we're going to take 7 points in Holy Icon, increased healing effectiveness, necrotic resistance, health. 10 points in Prayer, increased damage and increased healing granted. 4 points in Dedication, just for a little extra attunement and mana regen. Don't really care too much about that. We're just trying to get to this side of the tree. 10 points in Holy Precision. This gives us a 200% increase to spell critical strike chance. And extra crit multiplier with lightning skills. This is a huge hammered in or smite node, but in this particular case, we want the spell critical strike chance. 1 point in Divine Essence. You have a chance to be granted a Divine Essence, blah, blah, blah. We just needed 1 point. 12 points into Reverence of Duality, increase health, healing effectiveness, and damage, and mana, but who cares about that? And then Light of Raye, increase movement speed, increase fire damage. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the build. I'm Babbling Bike. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do here, consider dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. We're going to be getting back into Last Epoch a lot more, leading up to Cycle 2 and onwards. Thank you so very much. Anyway, you guys have yourselves a good one. You take care. Cheers.